Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we also want to say we always want to keep it real. And as we come to you worldwide, we want to also thank you for all of our listeners in Latin America. So bienvenidos to you and also you good old boys up in London, England, and especially the people that follow from the great country of Canada. I love also to say hello to you good old boys in Dubai. Send some of that oil to California, and also the good old boys in North America, Big C, and the great United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Today is July 23rd. Actually, July 23rd, Big C. I think I had too much moonshine, Big C. Today is actually September 23rd, 2016. So I know I'm not good at drinking moonshine, Big C, but you handle it better than I do. How you good old boys doing down south, Big C?
Well, Charlton, just a little bit of moonshine to make you clairvoyant when you see everything.
Yeah.
You see the past, the present, and the future. And, you know, the future looks bright. You know, the weekend of college football and professional football is coming up. What more can you ask? You know, then I'll have all the great games. There's going to be a lot of conference championships decided this weekend, early in the season, you know, week 3.
Yeah.
You're going to have conferences decided. So, you know, you got to really look forward to that. And teams are going to be eliminated in the NFL.
Yeah.
From the playoffs because they're going to have no 0-3 start.
Yeah, that's very true, Big C. And as we get into the football season, number one, there's a lot of issues going on in the country. But I think it's a good thing because we can all talk. I mean, unlike some of the days where you couldn't talk about things that happened that aggrieved one part of a community or one part of a country, those days are over. Whether it's people of color or women, no matter who you are, religion, doesn't matter. As long as we can talk about it, there's always hope for change, Big C. And as we jump into some of the world of college football, and we'll get hit on in the NFL next, I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive one, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And Big C, I know we talked about the mud. And did you not say yesterday that you guys keep fish in the back of your car in the heat because it keeps the burglars away? Big C, is that what you said?
Well, you got to understand, you got to have an alarm that really works. Nobody wants to take that car with that heated fish riding around in it, Charlton. But we know how to put down the windows and air it out.
That's so funny, Big C, because a lot of people in California, they spend a lot of money on car alarms. In fact, the Escalade comes with one from GM, but that's the way you good old boys do it down there. Nothing wrong with tradition, Big C. And as I say about tradition, getting into the world of college football, you know, it's going to be hard for any conference, Big C, to live up to week 1 because we had some great matchups, you know, even traditional matchups. Even if they did not all mount up to being great games, we had USC, Alabama, we had Notre Dame at Texas, and those are just to name 2. We also had, you know, Michigan State played Notre Dame last week. We had so many of the top games. LSU was at Wisconsin, so it's going to be hard to match that until we actually get into the playoffs, Big C. But I just want to get your thoughts on a game that's kind of under the radar nationally, but in the Pac-12, it has really a really strong statement. USC is only 1-2. Right now, you don't expect that coming from the Minotaur to be 1-2, Big C, but they are. And they're on the road at Utah, which is ranked number 23 in the country. And they're also 3-0 in the season. They have a chance to win the Pac-12, Big C. Your thoughts on that game coming up?
Well, when you think of USC, Charlton, they're changing quarterbacks this week. 3 games into the season, Charlton, they're making a switch. So they have a problem. And Clay Helton is under fire there at USC. But Utah has always been a quiet assassin in the West.
Yeah.
You know, since they moved into the Pac-12, they've been very competitive. They've had some strong teams. Injuries have kept them out of championships.
Yeah.
But this is a game that's do or die, I believe, for Clay Helton, Charlton. If he doesn't win this game, he will not see the end of the season.
Well, I think they're trying to switch quarterbacks to kind of make it seem like it's the quarterback's fault, but he's the guy that got the job, Big C. I think you're right. Also, keep in mind that Utah last year, they gave Michigan a loss when Michigan tried to go up in there, and so that's a tough place for USC to go in there and win. Looks like the Trojans may start the season out 1-3, and I don't know what Lynn Swan's going to say his role is in that, Big C, because Helton was brought on to turn the program around, and he and Lynn Swan. But if they start out 1-3, I can't imagine the alumni at USC being very happy, Big C. In another big game, and I think this is already shaping up as something that could challenge for the Big Ten championship, even though everyone's looking at Ohio State and Michigan. But you have number 10 Wisconsin. They're 3-0, and they're on the road at number 8 Michigan State. They're 2-0. That's a game that Wisconsin could win, but Michigan State still is flying high from that Notre Dame win, Big C.
Well, you just think about the competition level going on right now, Charlton, in the Big Ten. You got 4 teams in the top 15 in the country.
Yeah.
So it seems to be the dominant conference in the country right now. And when the season opened up, Wisconsin dominated LSU, and everybody thought LSU was a shoo-in in that game.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin took control of it, and they're 3-0 right now. Last week, Michigan State just went out and dominated Notre Dame. They have a well-balanced team. When you look at Michigan State, Michigan gets all the hype in the state.
Yeah.
But Michigan State and Mike D'Antoni's had such a solid program, Charlton, the last decade, and they've been in several key bowl games.
Yeah.
And also, they were in the college football playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think they were shut out by Alabama by the score of 41-0. So a lot of people, that happens when they run up against the Crimson Tide. And another game down in your neck of the woods, Big C. And I want to ask you about the University of Georgia, because they have always been a solid program, great athletes from the state of Georgia, but they haven't really been challenging whether it's Alabama or LSU to win that conference. But they are ranked number 11 in the country. They're 3-0, and they're on the road at number 21, Mississippi. Now, they're deceiving 1 and 2 because their 2 losses came to Florida State, and also Alabama squeaked by Mississippi. That could be the first loss for Georgia on the road. Big C, your thoughts on that game?
Well, when you think about Mississippi, Charlton, they're probably the best 2-loss team in the country.
Yeah.
When you look at the games they lost to Florida State and Alabama, they're going up against Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia has Alabama's former defensive coordinator as their head coach, Kirby Smart. Mark Richt did a wonderful job. He's now down at the University of Miami, but they didn't get over the hump, as you said, winning a championship. And it's been over a decade since they've won the SEC championship. So Kirby Smart He started freshman quarterback. Nick Chubb, he had last year, seems to be 100%.
Yeah.
So this Georgia team will go as Nick Chubb's go, I feel, against Mississippi, because they have too many great athletes. But Kelly can keep Mississippi in any game. If not for the 2 interception returns by Alabama last week, Charlton, when they played them, Alabama would already have a loss for the season.
Well, that's very true, Big C, because it's always tight when you go down to the SEC, so that's a big game you're talking about. Another game that has to be kind of a telltale for Florida State. They started the season in the top 4 in most polls. They were even as high as number 2, and then they got knocked off just by Louisville, just ran all over them, Big C, but they're still...
I think they might have got their butt kicked.
Okay, I was trying to be kind to them, Big C, but they're ranked number 14 in the country. They're 2-1. They're at South Florida, which is 3-0, maybe a lot better than people give them credit. They get a lot of talent from Florida, Big C. Florida State has to win this game even to stay in contention for the ACC. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, I think Florida will win this game. Florida State will win this game convincingly, Charlton. You know, when you look at South Florida, you also have to look at the competition. You know, everybody has tremendous college teams. And I'm not slighting any talent out there, but it's also the level of competition that you play.
Yeah.
Florida State will be smarting from the loss last week to Louisville, knowing that they need to get back on track. See Dalvin Cook, the running back, play a bigger role this year. For this week for Florida State, Charlton.
Yeah, definitely true. He has to get his hands around the ball, Big C. A game that's going to be so disappointing whether they win or not. Number 25, Iowa, 2-1. They're at Rutgers, which is also 2-1, another Big Ten game. But Iowa, no matter what happens to them, they will always have that same thing that happened to Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State a couple of seasons ago, Big C. To lose to North Dakota State, I know they're a smaller division team, but they lost at home. They were kind of pushed around even though they lost by a field goal. How do they get back on their heels, Big C? I never thought that Iowa was that great. I thought they were always overrated, and I think North Dakota State showed that, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, you know, you look at Iowa, they have a returning starting quarterback in Bethany, and you thought they would have a better offensive performance because North Dakota State. But North Dakota State went out there and played smash-mouth football against Iowa.
Yeah.
They actually dominated that game because Iowa, if they were a better team, Charlton, they would have pulled away with all of that Big Ten talent. And the Big Ten has been talking about expansion. Maybe they need to look at North Dakota State, Charlton.
Yeah, they might look to North Dakota State because them expanding, all you're doing is watering down that league. I think that's the worst thing that can happen to these Power 5 conferences. They're trying to make it where they have between 12 to 17 teams, it seems, in these conferences, Big C. But it's so watered down because you have lower-level teams that are in those conferences just to get the money, Big C. I don't think that's the greatest thing in the world for it. Another game that could have some impact on what happens in the conference in the Big Ten, you have Penn State. They're 2-1. They're at number 5 Michigan 3-0. Now, number 5 Michigan under Harbaugh, they started slow against Colorado last week. In fact, they were behind big, and then they came back and won that game. Maybe some home cooking if you talk to the Colorado press, Big C. But just your thoughts on Penn State going into Michigan. Do they have a chance to knock off number 5, the Wolverines, Big C?
Well, Michigan is the dominant of these two teams, Charlton. Harbaugh has this program on the right track. When you think about where this program was 2 years ago when he came on board in Michigan, I mean, Brady Hoke had done a marvelous job at San Diego State, but he just could not get the job done in Michigan.
Yeah.
But Harbaugh just, in 2 seasons, has his team ranked in the top 5 in the country.
Yeah.
That's amazing when you think about the productivity they had. And they've scored some big points this year. They've had a game in the 70s. They've had a game in the 60s.
Yeah.
That win against Colorado shows the perseverance of a team that he has built.
Yeah.
That they are in it to win it. That's what 60 minutes of football is all about. So I like Michigan in this game, Charlton. You know, they will win because they're looking for the first opportunity to be in a Big Ten title game for the first time in 14 years.
Yeah, well, they're favored by 18 points, Big C, so I think you and also the pollsters like the same thing. Another big game down in your neck of the woods, and I just love the crowd. No matter how good Tennessee is, they're expected to be really good this year, the Volunteers. But when I look at number 16, Florida's 3-0. I know a lot of people didn't give them a lot of credit going into the season, but 3-0 on the road at number 12, Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's ranked number 12. Florida's ranked 16. But I think Florida has as much talent as anyone down there in the SEC. And when you look at that game, Tennessee's favored by 6 points at home, Big C. Is that something that you look at, Big C?
Well, you know, the biggest disappointment for Florida this week is they lost Del Rio, their quarterback, fine quarterback out of California. Matter of fact, his dad is the head coach of the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
He went down with a knee injury, and he's going to be lost for 2 to 4 weeks. But Joshua Dobbs in Tennessee, the quarterback, he's a senior now, and he has to finally step up. I look for him to carry the ball 15 to 20 times this game, Charlton, on designated runs to make the difference. With the speed of that Florida defense, they're going to have to keep him mobile, moving in and out of the pocket, and that will put a lot of pressure on Florida. You know, the big difference is who will Florida play at quarterback. Whoever they play, it will be their first game of the season, Charlton.
Well, that's very true, Big C. And speaking of being very true, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? We keep telling people go out and play the lottery. You know, it's not as exciting, Big C, when it's not $100 million. It's only about $45 million this Saturday with the Powerball and then the Mega Million.
Weekend money, Charlton. Weekend money.
That's the kind of money you gamble with, from what I understand, Big C. So you don't get excited about that. You know, sometimes when the lottery is under $100 million, it's kind of like that dog you have that already ate. You can call him, but he's not hungry. So a lot of people don't crowd the stores for that one, Big C. And also, I want to say with Charlton and Big C, we keep praying Creflo Dollar, TD Jakes. Big C, I'm still on the hold for TD Jakes and Creflo Dollar. I want them to pray to God to send some of that money to us. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, you know, we got to get them down for watching the football game. They're watching on Sunday. They're letting church out early, Charlton.
Yeah.
They need to return their phone call, get the player in play, and get that money going your way.
Well, I could definitely use it, Big C. And also, back into the world of college football. Now, this is a team that's kind of been under the radar, but every year they're talked about as a Cinderella team, especially on the West Coast, but in all of college football. You look at Boise State, they're 2-0 on the season. They're at Oregon State, which is 1-1 in the Pac-12. I think Boise gets more talent because there's a small state in Idaho. They get more talent out of California than even Oregon State does. And being on the road, Boise State is favored over a Pac-12 team by 13 points, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, you know, that program has been special over the years, Charlton. When you look at it, they've beaten every Pac-12 opponent that they've played. They've beaten Oregon State. They've beaten Oregon.
Yeah.
They've beaten Washington. They've beaten Washington State. So they're not afraid of the big boys. They run under the radar because of the conference that they're in.
Yeah.
But if you look at the talent that they've produced across the board that is now playing in NFL, Charlton, it's been a quality program, and NFL scouts know about it. I like Boise State in that game because they're the unknown.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guy who is, when you look at the Pac-12 team, all the pressure is on Oregon State.
Yeah.
Boise can just go in there and let the ears back and have fun.
Yeah, that's very true, Big C. And remember Riley, who actually had Oregon State playing well. He's now at Nebraska. They actually beat Oregon last week. Oregon had a chance to win that game, but the Huskers came back and played strong behind the quarterback, Armstrong. And in the last college game we'll touch on, Big C, we have Colorado 2-1. You know, they had Michigan on the ropes and Ann Arbor. They're at they're at Oregon now, which is not ranked now, but Oregon's 2-1 on the season. They lost to Nebraska. So 2 Pac-12 teams losing to 2 Big Ten teams. We also had UCLA going into, it was actually College Station week 1, lost a close game in overtime at A&M. USC on the road in the Kickoff Classic lost a blowout loss to Alabama. So the Pac-12 is not really looking that strong outside of the conference, Big C. But again, your thought on this game with Colorado at Oregon. It's at home. Oregon should win it. They're favored by 10. Your thoughts on the game, Big C?
Well, Austin Stadium is always a difficult place to play, Charlton. But when you look at Oregon's schedule, I mean, they opened up the season against UC Davis. So they didn't open up against a powerhouse team.
Yeah.
They went to Nebraska on the road,
yeah,
and they got trucked there in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So, last week Colorado played Michigan to the team.
Yeah.
Other than losing their starting quarterback, they would have won that game. And I think that's going to be the difference this week. Colorado lost their starting quarterback last week. Oregon's at home. You got to give the advantage to Oregon in this game, Charlton. They have a tremendous running game.
Yeah, they definitely do, Big C. And one more thing, I told you that would be the last score, but I really want to bring up 2 more because it just crossed my mind, and I don't want to neglect them. I think the biggest game for Houston is going to be when they go at Clemson, and that's going to be next week, but they are ranked number 7 in the country. They're 3-0. They have a great offense. They're at Texas State, which is 1-1. That should be a blowout for Houston, but could that be a potential letdown knowing they're going into Death Valley next week, Big C, to take on Clemson?
No, it won't be a letdown. Playing Texas State, Houston may hang about 70 points on the scoreboard.
Wow.
But on the other flip, they can score some points. I mean, they will do that. Texas State is not that strong of a team. Houston, when you have an opponent like that, you have to go out and dominate. You have to leave no doubt.
Yeah.
That's what you do in a game like that. You leave no doubt. And last night, Clemson struggled once again, so their offense hasn't gotten on track. And I think that, Houston will be lining up all the points they can to serve notice on Clemson.
Yeah.
This can also happen to you.
Well, that's interesting. But Louisville is also going to play at Clemson next year. I think next week I was saying it was Houston, but it's going to be Louisville actually playing at Clemson. So I apologize for that. But also, final game in the Pac-12. Now, Stanford has been the dominant team in the Pac-12. They were kind of left out of the national championship games last year because they were ranked number 5 at the end of the season. If they're going to make a push for the top 4, the Final 4, Big C, they have a big game they have to win this week. They have to play UCLA on the road in the Rose Bowl. Stanford's ranked number 6 in the country. They're 2-0. They have McCaffrey, who's an All-American candidate at tailback. Big C, he's kind of a do-it-all type of running back for Stanford. And they're playing at UCLA, which is 2-1. Stanford's only favored by 3 at the Rose Bowl. Big C, your thoughts on that game?
But isn't it amazing year after year what David Shaw does with the consistency of his teams?
Yeah.
He has no problem playing in Southern California, Charlton. Last week he went down and beat up on USC.
Yeah.
Had no problem with that. And going down to UCLA, they already had the loss against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Rosen is a tremendous quarterback, but he doesn't play defense.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you go back and you look at the A&M film, they expose some weaknesses in the secondary of UCLA and also on the edge where the quarterback is able to get outside.
Yeah,
Stanford has a new quarterback. They're 3-0. But it's David Shaw. It's just like when you talk about Bill Belichick. Comes down to coaching.
Yeah.
He can coach. I like Stanford in this game.
Well, speaking of liking Stanford in this game, this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. You can tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports for that. We are also endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association, and we work with all of the unions under the AFL-CIO. We're looking to employ over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C in Sports for that. Big C, I know something that's really near and dear to your heart is when we start talking pro football. I know you good old boys down south love college football too, Big C. You do know they play pro football too. I know you guys down south love college ball, Big C.
Well, Charlton, we watch those lazy guys on Sunday from time to time.
I figured you guys would be in church and wouldn't have time for NFL football, Big C, but I guess I was wrong.
Charlton, they have little monitors behind the pews.
That's funny.
We understand what priority is down here. Okay?
That's funny. I went to church one time with a good old friend down south. He took me to a Sunday service. I thought we were going to have some really good prayers to God, and the pastor had a little game. He had a game behind the pulpit, Big C. He was up there preaching, but he also had the game on too. I thought that was incredible, Big C. But also when it comes to the NFL football games, Arizona, they're 1-1. They're at the Buffalo Bills, which are 0-2. And I'm still wondering why they fired their offensive coordinator when their defense is the one that gave up a lot of points, Big C. But we know sometimes blood's thicker than water. I just want to get your thoughts on that game. The Cardinals are actually a favorite by 4 on the road at Buffalo, Big C.
Well, the Cardinals last week got off the snide, put up a lot of points. Buffalo's in a little bit of disarray.
Yeah.
They scored points against the Jets, but they couldn't stop anybody. Now, with a new offensive coordinator, Charlton, how efficient will the offense be? We know that the defense in Buffalo is lackluster.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, Carson Palmer seemed to hit his stride. His receiving core is there.
Yeah.
So, Tyrod Taylor has the highest QBR rating at home for all quarterbacks in the last 6 games in the NFL. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah.
Is Sammy Watkins healthy? That's going to be the difference.
Yeah.
Rashad McCoy really hasn't made his presence felt for Buffalo this year. So those two players, for Buffalo to win, they have to make a difference. Rashad McCoy and Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, well, another great game. Could be a great game. It's definitely an important game because the Raiders play the Ravens next week. They are 1-1 at Tennessee 1-1. That game is Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. And the Titans are favored by 2. 1 week after edging the Saints, the Raiders came home and laid an egg against the Falcons. And we know that the Falcons can throw the football, but Carr was still 34-45 for 299 yards. But there's some talk that Jack Del Rio used to be a defensive coordinator and that Ken Norton might be on the hot seat. I heard Amy Trask talking today. She's formerly with the Raiders, and she's saying it's foolish to even talk about firing a coach in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, even though Buffalo did it. Could Ken Norton be on the hot seat? And is this a game the Raiders can win when they're expecting the temperature to be in the 90s, Big C?
Well, Charlton, if you think about it, Tennessee dominated the Raiders during the preseason.
Yeah.
So they understand what the Raiders can and cannot do. You talk about firing coordinators. It's easy to lay blame, but
Yeah.
the guys out on the field are the ones who are executing or not executing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to look at the players. Maybe you need to change the players on the roster. Take somebody who's sitting on the bench, put him in the lineup.
Yeah.
But the Raiders have a lot of talent that is not delivering. It's not about coaching. It's about desire.
Yeah.
When you get to this level of the game, Charlton, you're all paid to be professionals.
Yeah.
Win or lose, that's what you're paid for, and they're not producing.
Well, Big C, you said it right. It is always about the players on the field, and people always want to look at firing the coach sometime or a defensive guy, but I think Buffalo did the wrong thing last week when they did that. Another game that has a traditional feel to it, the Washington Redskins, they are 0-2 with, you like that. I think it's Kirk Cousins. He's the one that's going to be their franchise quarterback. So Coach Gruden has his hands cut out for his work cut out for him.
Well, Charlton is like the lottery. What's
Yeah.
the $20 million do?
Hey, well,
that's what you're looking at with Kirk Cousins.
I would like to find out, Big C. I would like to find out. They're playing at the New York Giants, who are 2-0 on the season. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. on Fox, and the Giants are favored by 5. Now, we know Manning hasn't had a lot of great success over the past couple of years, but he has them off to a 2-0 start, Big C.
Well, he has them off to a 2-0 start, Charlton, but he really hasn't done anything spectacular. Washington scored points last week against Dallas, and in an errant pass by Cousins late in the game, and they ended up in an interception.
Yeah.
But, this could be a trap game for the Giants. They play tremendous defense, but their offense has been lackluster.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Look at the Giants to blitz Cousins frequently.
Yeah.
Because he has not been able to get the ball to Jackson. So that's the key. If they can shut down Jackson, Washington doesn't have a chance.
Well, speaking of having a chance, the Cleveland Browns 0-2. They're at the Miami Dolphins 0-2, which spent $500 million to improve their stadium. I think they put an overhead deck on it the same way you did to your Escalade, Big C, but it hasn't really helped. Okay, you did yours to go hunting for boar hogs, I believe. That game's at Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. And the Dolphins, they're better than they seem. They're favored by 10 over the Browns. In the Browns lead, they led the first quarter 20-0 in the first quarter last week, but didn't score again. And they're just having some problems because they're banged up, Big C. Can the Dolphins cover by 10, though? That's a lot of points for a team that hasn't won a game, Big C.
Well, you're looking at starting their third quarterback of the year, the Cleveland Browns, Cody Kelsey.
Yeah.
And he struggled during the preseason, but they kept him around, because they looked at his upside.
Yeah.
Now, he's playing against the Dolphins. If you look at what the Dolphins have done, they hung in there with the New England Patriots last week.
Yeah.
They gave Seattle week 1 a fight for their money.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins are playing great defensive football. Now, they're bringing a team in that's only scored 20 points on the season.
Yeah.
And Cleveland, is always primed for the picking. When you got a rookie quarterback, and this will be the 4th rookie quarterback to start the NFL this year.
Yeah.
3 weeks into the season. I gave it to the Dolphins on this, their home opener.
Yeah.
I think they'll just go out and dominate Cleveland. Cleveland's looking to start out 0-3.
Well, another game that has a great defense potential, the Baltimore Ravens 2-0. They're at Jacksonville. Jacksonville was blown out last week, and we have this game on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. The Ravens are favored by 1 on the road. Joe Flacco kept his cool, and the Ravens overcame a 20-0 deficit to defeat the Browns last weekend. And can they fall behind again against the Jaguars and come back and win, Big C?
Well, I look at the Ravens. Steve Smith really hasn't gotten off the snide. Forsett has done a good job at running back. Joe Flacco has played better than people expected.
Yeah.
But you can't get down. But the Jaguars haven't found an answer yet, Charlton, offensively.
Yeah.
They're always trailing. When you look at Blake Bortles, he's had more 300-yard games than any quarterback in the last 10.
Yeah.
So, and that's a reason for that you're always trailing. So, if they get a hit, maybe they can use some ground control and possibly pull out an upset.
Well, another game that could have upset written all over it, Big C, because Aaron Rodgers is not playing that great. Detroit Lions 1-1. They're on the road at the Green Bay Packers, who are also 1-1. That game's going to be Sunday at 1 o'clock on Fox, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox, Big C. The Packers have to really get it together. They're favored by 7, and penalties and injuries hampered the Lions in their 16-15 loss to Tennessee. But I'm not that impressed with Green Bay so far, the way they're playing, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Aaron Rodgers has always been looked at one of the top quarterbacks in football, Charlton, but he doesn't have any weapons around him right now. But
yeah.
The offensive line has been playing subpar. He has no receiver that can go out and dominate right now, so it makes Aaron Rodgers a very pedestrian quarterback. But on the flip side, you look at Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford started out the season on fire against Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But he reverted back to his old self last week. He's been 2 shades of quarterback. But, which Matthew Stafford will show up there? Matthew Stafford against Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah.
Or the Matthew Stafford from last week who laid an egg?
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And speaking of laying an egg, I'm telling you, this defense makes everybody lay an egg, especially Andrew Luck last week. The Denver Broncos, the defending Super Bowl champions, they're 2-0. They're having a playoff game atmosphere on the road at Cincinnati, 1-1. That game is Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. Now, the Bengals are favored by 3. I'm going to take Denver until somebody knocks them off, Big C, because the formula is for success for the Broncos in their 34-20 win versus Indianapolis. You run the ball, you play outstanding defense, and Trevor Siemian played well. He actually was 22 of 33 passing, 266 yards. I think Cincinnati can beat them, but you got to show me before I go against Denver this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, how they're playing football, Charlton, is how they ended the season last year.
Yeah.
They had a very inept quarterback, but they have a quarterback who's playing better than the one they lost from last season. And, that defense has just been incredible. And Wade Phillips does not get enough credit as the defensive coordinator in Denver.
No.
He is the architect. And Denver right now is under the pressure to win again because when you look at that defense overall, it's aging.
Yeah.
So these people are playing like it's their last game every week. So look for Denver once again to dominate defensively, Charlton.
Well, speaking of dominating defensively, I just want to bring this up. We talked about winning the lottery, Big C, and we hope that the number shines on us. Maybe T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and Joel Osteen, they'll pray hard enough for us, Big C. But what can $75 million do for you? Well, ask Brock Osweiler, because they took their show on the road to New England last night against the great Jedi Knight, Bill Belichick, Big C. And the Jedi Knight, he shut down $75 million by the tune of 27-0. That's what $75 million buys you now, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, it was very disappointing to see Houston so inept last night.
Yeah.
If they ever were going to have a chance to beat New England, it was last night, Charlton. And you think about the first half of that game.
Yeah.
Houston never crossed the 50-yard line. And, Jacoby Brissett, the rookie quarterback, did an admirable job. He played the game plan that they put out there for him. He can dunk passes every now and then, throw it deep if you can make a connection.
Yeah.
But the key to that game last night, Charlton, was the kicking game for New England.
Yeah.
They kept Houston in negative field position. And they also forced a couple of turnovers on kicks.
Yeah.
So Brock Osweiler came onto the field frustrated, knowing he had to go the length of the field to try to score.
Yeah.
And he was just under pressure all night long. He's immobile. You know where he's going to be in the pocket.
Yeah.
He was sacked several times and he was hit several times.
Well,
so New England, when you think about Bill Belichick, has there ever been anybody better?
No, I can't even say Bill Walsh or Chuck Noll, Big C, or Tom Landry. I can't. Bill Belichick's the best coach in the history of the NFL. I want to ask you real quick, though, what can $75 million do for you? Jacoby Brissett, the kid out of college last year, playing college ball last year, to just master this offensive game plan for New England. Your thoughts on him against a guy that makes $75 million, Big C? Your thoughts on Brissett last night?
Well, it shows a guy who had poise, Charlton. You know, you think about the athleticism of Brissett. You know, when he had the 31-yard touchdown run, people expected him to step out of bounds. He cut it back in, took it to the end zone. This is a guy who played within the system last night. Brock Osweiler was pressing. He was on a national stage. He wanted to show America that he was worth $75 million. I think he owes some money back after last night.
Well,
but there was a reason that John Elway didn't sign him, Charlton. He played 8 games in Denver last year. He never dominated any of the 8. Okay, he was 5-3 as a starter, but he didn't dominate any of those 5 games that they won. They could have easily lost them, but that great Denver defense won the game for him. So it was a little misconception about how good he was. But, you know, you win 5 games and you make $75 million in the NFL as a backup quarterback.
Instead of us trying to win the lottery, I think I'm going to try to become an NFL backup quarterback. That might get me $75 million. But also I think that, you know, Osweiler found out that New England Patriots defensive line was a lot tougher than that woman that he pushed twice down in Houston, and the media said nothing about it, Big C. Also, when you talk about football games, the Minnesota Vikings have had the toughest start to the season with their quarterback Bridgewater going down, Adrian Peterson going down, but they keep winning. Now, this is a tough game for them. They're at Carolina with all the social issues going in the state of Carolina. They're 2-0 in the season. The Panthers are 1-1 because they missed a field goal at Denver. That game's Sunday at 1 o'clock p.m. on Fox. That's Eastern Time. Now, Carolina's favored by 7. They're the defending NFC North, against the defending NFC North champion Vikings, but they're not the same as when they have Bridgewater and Peterson in the backfield. I think that's a game that Carolina could win as long as they stay focused on sports and not all the chaos going on around that stadium, Big C.
Well, you know, the unrest that's going on in Carolina has nothing to do with the game. I mean, sports is such a polarizing event. Carolina is focused on what they need to do, Charlton, at home. Yes, you're concerned about your citizens and your local community, but you also have a job to do. And for some reason, a lot of the national media is trying to make football players responsible for what's going on outside these venues, Charlton. Football is just their job. It doesn't define who they are. Yes, they're these tremendous athletes who earn a tremendous living. But they're football players. They're not the advocates for society. We have to leave that to other people and focus on Carolina winning the game. And I think they'll dominate just because of all what's going on in their community. Is that they really want to come out and put a stamp. And give these people something to think about other than what's going on in the streets with the injustice in South Carolina.
And speaking of something to think about, this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance agents. So tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports if you're looking for work. You can hear us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeartRadio Network, the best platform in the country. And also, if you're looking to advertise, tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio Network. And I want to just bring up this score, Big C, because the Los Angeles Rams are 1-1. They're the biggest story in Los Angeles since the Lakers have been on the fall. But they're at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game is Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Buccaneers are favored by 6, but the Rams have won the last 4 games, even though I think Winston's going to get back on his feet. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you know, the Rams at home opening up in L.A., you know, the biggest thing with the Rams, Charlton, is Todd Gurley. He's had 100-yard game in his last 10. They've forgotten about the reason why they drafted him number 1 last year and that he was Rookie of the Year because of the yards that he gained on the ground. They put so much emphasis in their passing game this year. And I think Tampa will have a bounce back game because the Rams haven't run Gurley. You know, they've been more interested in getting their passing game on track. But I also think that you may see Jeff Goff, at least in the second half of this game. But I look for Jameis Winston not to have the atrocious game that he had last week, catch his stride once again, and look for Tampa to win this one on the road.
Well, thinking of catch his stride, the San Francisco 49ers 1-1. They're at Seattle. The Seahawks are only 1-1 on the season. That game is Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And the Seahawks are favored by 9. It's been a long time since the 49ers have won up there. And I think right now, Chip Kelly has got this up-tempo offense playing, but Gabbert completing less than 50% of his passes. At some point in time, Chip Kelly has to decide if he wants to win a game or if he wants to try to appease the fans that wants Gabbert for some reason, who's only thrown 36 touchdowns and 33 interceptions. He's barely throwing more touchdowns and interceptions, and that's during his career, Big C. So if they want to win, sometimes you got to look at who's gotten the most wins that you have on the bench, and I think that's Kaepernick. But we're going to see how far Chip Kelly rides this bus. I don't think they're going to even come close to beating Seattle this week. I think Seattle gets on track. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about how far we've gone in such a short time. Just 3 years ago, these were the two dominant teams in the West Coast.
Yeah.
They were playing for NFC championships, going to the Super Bowl, both of them. But now both of these teams are having problems at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson's been banged up.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the mobility. The offensive line in Seattle's been atrocious the first couple games of the season.
Yeah.
And San Francisco's just in total disarray.
Yeah.
You know, other than Carlos Hyde scoring those touchdowns in the first game of the season, you know, they've done nothing offensively.
Yeah.
The defense has been well on both teams. But the quarterback position, Blaine Gabbert hasn't proven that he's a quality NFL starter. Russell Wilson needs to prove to everybody here why he's been the starter that he's been, Charlton.
That's very true, Big C. We finish up with the New York Jets 1-1 and Kansas City. They're at Kansas City 1-1. That game is Sunday at 4 o'clock p.m., actually 4:25 kickoff Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports. The Chiefs are favored by 3, and they're at home. Quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, he has two great players in Brandon Marshall, and he also has Eric Decker. They actually played very well, Big C, but going on the road, winning at Kansas City is going to be very difficult. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, you know, the Jets are a turf team. They're going to play on grass. Kansas City was disappointing last week, being dominated by Houston. Alex Smith is a better quarterback than what he showed.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick has played well in both of the games for the Jets this year. They have that tremendous receiving core. That, you know, they have the triplets that make it really difficult. You know, Fournette.
Yeah, Fournette.
Scored 3 touchdowns last week, and he's the first Jet running back since the Hall of Famer Curtis Martin to rush for over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. So maybe the Jets have thought they offered a stride and to go into Kansas City looking to pull an upset, Charles.
Yeah, it's always great when you have two great quarterbacks going at it. San Diego Chargers 1-1. They're at Indianapolis. The Colts are 0-2. I think Andrew Luck may get his first win this season, Big C. That game Sunday, 4:25 kickoff on Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports. I just don't think that the Chargers have enough to go on the road and win that game. The Colts are 0-2, but they're probably ready for a breakout, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, yeah, the Colts are 0-2, Charles, but, you know, they haven't proven that they can block anybody with that offensive line that they have.
That's true.
So, you know, that's the key to the game. The Chargers can play a little bit of defense. They proved that last week against Jacksonville and shutting down that offense. But, you know, they're also hurting. They've lost Allen and they've lost Whitehead. But Phillip Rivers is always that gamer at quarterback.
Yeah.
So, you know, look at what they can do right there with Phillip Rivers. You know, Andrew Luck still hasn't proven that he's that bona fide $144 million man.
Yeah.
Colts are 0-2. You expect more from a quarterback that's making that kind of money, Charles.
Yeah, well, right now I know he's not really making much money, but that shows you can lose games and still they're not taking the money back, BC. So I don't think Andrew Luck really cares that much. And the Chicago Bears 0-2. Whatever happened to this proud franchise? They're at the Dallas Cowboys 1-1. That game Sunday, 8:30 Eastern Time kickoff on NBC Sports. The Cowboys are actually favored by 7 at home, and the status for the Bears quarterback Jay Cutler was unclear. He injured his right hand, and he was strip sacked on that game, 29-20 for a loss to Philadelphia. But I think Dallas with Prescott and also Elliott, and they have the best offensive line, as they keep getting into their grooves and bring their quarterback along, I think Dallas is definitely a playoff team this year, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, you know, you look at this situation with the Bears, they're probably in their best situation with quarterback-wise already for the year.
Yeah. With
Jay Cutler being out. It's time for Jay Cutler to go. You know, all those people that have been fans of Jay Cutler, he hasn't gotten any better as a quarterback in Chicago. Matter of fact, that team has gone downward. I mean, the NFL is full of great talent all across, but every team, regardless of win or lose, they're all professional players in the NFL.
Yeah.
But Jay Cutler has made this organization worse. And so I give Dallas the advantage because they seemed to play better last week. If they play more at the running back position, they're going to be even a more dominant team on offense.
Yeah.
But Jay Cutler, you know, really helps Chicago offensively not being in the lineup. You hate to see a player hurt.
Yeah.
But it's to Chicago's advantage for him not to be there in the lineup.
Well, that's definitely true. This final segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to entertainment and promotions, Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. I also am thinking about doing a program coming up for successful women entrepreneurs. Saeed Barrefield, she's excellent when it comes to the insurance business. She's also an entrepreneur. I also have Myra DeLeon. She's an excellent insurance broker. And then Cindy, I'm working with her. We help get uniforms out to all the sports teams all over the world, Big C. And this final game I want to bring up because it might be a little bit deceptive in how good one team is and how good one team is not. The Atlanta Falcons, they're 1-1 on the season, Big C, and they had a great win against the Oakland Raiders. They're playing at the New Orleans Saints, which are 0-2 on the season, and they lost that heartbreaking game to the Oakland Raiders, and then they got kind of behind they lost out in a game that they could have won at New York, but this game is Monday night at 8:30, kickoff Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. The Saints are actually favored by 3, Big C, but I want to get your thoughts. Atlanta had probably the biggest win for Dan Quinn in his 18-game tenure because they beat the Raiders in a game that the Raiders were poised to win. Your thoughts on the Falcons being able to go into New Orleans and actually lose that game? New Orleans should get their first win, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, the Falcons have been able to score some points, and that's the thing that the Saints didn't do last week against the Giants. We talked about the Giants having a better defense than what they had last year. But the Falcons are beat up at the wide receiver. Sanu and Jones were limping all week long. So, Charlton, that could be the difference. If Ryan doesn't have those 2 wideouts, it could be a long day for Atlanta's offense, and New Orleans make it the first victory of the season.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true, Big C. And also down the road, we love college football. We love NFL football. And we have the Bank of America is a Chase Sprint Cup. That's going to be happening in October the 8th on a Saturday down in your neck of the woods in the good old boys South. And so everyone can enjoy the Chase Sprint Cup Championship racing. That's sponsored by Bank of America. But I just want to get a wrap up on what's happening right now in the world of sports and also a little bit of social issues going on out there. I know that our country is great because people can agree and disagree, Big C, and I think that's what makes us great. But I just want to get you to wrap up your thoughts on what you're looking forward to going into this football weekend, and that's when everybody comes together, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at it from this perspective. We have so many matchups in the top 20 in the country. This will be a week that will decide conference championships, Charlton, in college football. And, this reminds me of the first week of the season when they talk about it was the greatest Saturday in college football history. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But this one, I think, tops that because these teams are jockeying for conference championships, jockeying not to be eliminated from the college playoff scenario, Charlton.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful weekend in college football. And it's also the first weekend of fall football, Charlton, where football really becomes intense.
Well, yep.
When we get the falling of the leaves, and so we're going to get the falling of some teams, Charlton, out of the rain.
Well, hopefully in California we'll get the falling of some rain too. And speaking of rain, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, you can listen to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. And you can make it rain, and we want to make it rain also, Big C. But I also want to say, for all of you people loving sports, keep our women safe. We know that sometimes we have this abuse that goes on. We don't want any tolerance for abuse. Any woman in trouble, just call 911 and let them deal with that. But I also want to say we thank you for listening all the time. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.